There are moments in life when you feel stuck between prayer and promise. You've asked God, you've believed, you've waited, and still, nothing seems to move. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, months into quiet seasons that stretch longer than your patience. And somewhere in that silence, a question begins to rise in your heart. God, why the delay? If that question feels familiar, you are not alone. Almost every person God ever used walked through waiting rooms before they stepped into purpose. Abraham waited decades for Isaac. Joseph waited years in prisons and pits before he stood in palaces. David waited while Saul hunted him, even though he had already been anointed king. Moses waited in the wilderness. Esther waited for the right moment. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning his public ministry. Yet delay is not abandonment. Delay is often preparation. We live in a world that celebrates speed, instant messages, same-day delivery, overnight success. But God works on eternal timelines, not human calendars. And here's the truth most people don't realize. God is never late. He is precise. When God allows delay, it is never random. Heaven does nothing carelessly. What feels like postponement to you may actually be positioning. Because before God changes your situation, He often changes you. Waiting seasons expose what instant blessings would hide. They reveal your motives. They strengthen your character. They deepen your dependence. Romans 8:25 says, "But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently." Waiting is not passive. Waiting is active trust. It is choosing faith when evidence is thin. It is choosing obedience when answers are silent. It is choosing worship when progress feels invisible. Some delays exist because God is protecting you. If He gave you everything you asked for right now, it might crush you. If He opened that door too early, you might walk in unprepared. If He accelerated that blessing, it might damage your soul. You don't always see what God sees. You only see the closed door. He sees the storm on the other side. You only see the empty space. He sees the lesson forming. You only feel the pressure. He sees the purpose. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." You may have a timeline. God has a blueprint. And His blueprint includes shaping you into someone who can carry what He is about to release. Let me speak gently to your heart right now. Not every delay is spiritual warfare. Not every delay is punishment. Sometimes delay is discipleship. Sometimes God slows you down because He loves you too much to rush you into something that would harm you later. Think about Joseph. He had a dream at 17, but he did not step into leadership until his 30s. Why? Because dreams require maturity. Because calling requires character. Because influence requires humility. If Joseph had gone straight from the dream to the throne, pride would have destroyed him. So God used betrayal to teach forgiveness. He used prison to teach faithfulness. He used isolation to teach wisdom. The delay was not wasted. It was building him. And what God built in Joseph during the waiting sustained him in the fulfillment. That's how God works. He develops depth before He releases destiny. Many people pray for open doors, but God prays for prepared hearts. You ask for breakthrough. He asks for surrender. You ask for speed. He asks for trust. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." God sees farther than your frustration. He sees beyond this season. Another reason God allows delay is alignment. Sometimes He is arranging people. Sometimes He is shifting circumstances. Sometimes He is removing distractions. Sometimes He is closing wrong doors so the right one can open. You may feel like nothing is happening, but heaven is moving pieces you cannot see. Your waiting is not empty. It is full of unseen activity. There are conversations happening in places you've never entered. There are connections forming behind closed doors. There are prayers being answered in ways you don't yet recognize. God often works quietly. He doesn't announce every miracle in advance. Ecclesiastes 3:11 tells us, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." Not your time, His time, and His timing is always attached to wisdom. Let me tell you something important. Delay does not mean denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean it never will. Faith lives in the space between promise and manifestation. And that space is where trust is tested. This is where many people give up. They pray, wait a little, get tired, and walk away. But those who remain, those who keep believing, those who stay faithful in silence, they see God move. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Notice the condition: if we do not give up. Your breakthrough is connected to your endurance. Your miracle is tied to your persistence. Your next season is waiting on your obedience. Let me ask you something. Who are you becoming while you wait? Are you growing bitter, or are you growing deeper? Are you complaining, or are you praying? Are you drifting, or are you drawing closer? Waiting reveals your spiritual posture. And here's something powerful. God often delays answers because He wants relationship, not transactions. He is not a vending machine. He is a Father. He wants you to seek Him, not just His hand. He wants your heart, not just your requests. In seasons of delay, prayer becomes more than asking. It becomes listening. It becomes surrender. Yes, it becomes intimacy. That's where real transformation happens. Some of the strongest believers were shaped in seasons where nothing made sense. They learned to trust God in the dark. They learned to praise without proof. They learned to stand when feelings failed. And that strength did not come from instant answers. It came from waiting well. Right now, you may feel overlooked. You may feel forgotten. You may feel like everyone else is moving forward while you stand still. But God sees you. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord." Strength is built in waiting. Courage is formed in delay. Faith is refined in uncertainty. You are not behind. You are being prepared. And even if you don't understand this season, God is still writing your story. Every pause has purpose. That every delay carries design. Every quiet moment is shaping something eternal inside you. So don't rush God. Don't force doors. Don't compare timelines. Trust His process. Because when God finally moves, it will be worth every moment you waited. And when He brings you into the next chapter, you'll realize the delay didn't weaken you. It built you. And now, let me bring this to a close by speaking directly to your spirit. Because delays don't just test your patience, they test your identity. They whisper lies like, maybe you're forgotten. They suggest doubts like, maybe God moved on. They tempt you to settle for less than what heaven promised. But hear this clearly. God has not forgotten your name. Isaiah 49:15-16 says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." You are not invisible to God. Every prayer you prayed, every tear you cried, every quiet act of faith, He saw it all. And some of the delays you are experiencing right now are because God is guarding your future. If He answered too early, you would arrive before you were ready. If he moved too fast, you would step into blessing without stability. If he opened that door before your character caught up, the weight of it would break you. So God waits, not because he is slow, but because he is wise. Think about Noah. It took years to build the ark while people mocked him. Think about Hannah. She prayed year after year before Samuel was born. Think about Lazarus. Yet Jesus intentionally delayed 4 days before raising him from the dead. Why? So God's glory would be undeniable. Sometimes God delays so the miracle will be bigger than you imagined. Sometimes he waits so that when it finally happens, no one can deny his hand. What looks like a setback is often a setup. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like silence is often sacred preparation. Let me tell you something powerful. You don't lose time when you wait on God. You gain strength. You gain wisdom. You gain discernment. You gain depth. The world teaches you to hurry. God teaches you to become. And becoming takes time. Your waiting season is not wasted. It is working on you. Even when you don't feel progress. Even when nothing seems to change. Now, heaven is shaping your inner world while you watch the outer one. James 1:4 says, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Delay is part of that work. It completes you. Right now, God may be teaching you how to trust without timelines, how to obey without guarantees, how to worship without visible results. These lessons stay with you long after the blessing arrives. Because once the door opens, the season changes. But the person you became in the waiting remains. And that person determines how long you stay in what God gives you. Some people rush into answered prayers and rush right back out because they skipped preparation. God refuses to do that to you. He loves you too much. Let me speak this over your life. Your delay is not destruction, it is development. Your pause is not punishment, it is positioning. Your waiting is not weakness, it is training. You are being strengthened in places you cannot see yet. There are spiritual muscles forming. There is endurance being built. There is discernment being sharpened. And one day soon, you will realize that God was doing far more in you than you ever noticed. So what should you do while you wait? Stay faithful. Keep praying. Keep reading the Word. Keep choosing obedience. Keep loving God even when answers are slow. Because faithfulness in delay attracts favor in due time. Psalm 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." Stillness is not giving up. Stillness is surrender. It is trusting God enough to rest while he works. And he is working, even now, behind the scenes, in ways you cannot measure, in places you cannot reach, arranging moments, aligning hearts, preparing opportunities, and when the time is right, it will happen suddenly. Doors will open, answers will come, clarity will replace confusion, and you will look back and understand why it could not happen sooner. You will see how God protected you, how he redirected you, how he shaped you, how he saved you from paths that looked good, but would have ended in pain. So don't rush this season. Don't resent this process. Don't quit in the middle of becoming. God's delays are always wrapped in love. His timing is always rooted in wisdom, and his plans are always bigger than your current frustration. Hold on. Stay close to him. Trust his heart when you don't understand his hands, because the same God who promised it is the same God who will fulfill it. And when he does, you will testify that every moment of waiting was worth it.